Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Communicate Great podcast. I am Traci Poe, and we have guest Barb with us today, and we will get to her in a second. But what we do at the Communicate Great podcast is we help people level up their communication skills, whether for their personal life or for their professional life. And so, if you want help with that, get in touch. We'd love to have a conversation. So Barb, I am so glad that you are on. We tried before and this is a
Few times.
reschedule. So anyhow, I am so glad that you're on because what you're going to talk about is really one of the bigger things for me at Communicate Great.
Mhm.
So with Communicate Great, we have 5 areas that we really help people in, and one of them is self-talk. And so everybody, Barb is going to be talking about some of this today, just communicating with yourself. And those who've been
Mhm.
listening a while know it's intrapersonal communication. And so, Barb, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, what you do, and then let's just start talking about communication and giving people some tips on how they can level up talking to themselves.
Well, first of all, Tracy, thank you so much for having me on
Thank you
your
for coming
show.
on.
I'm so delighted to be here, and I'm very passionate about the topic that we are going to be diving into. I am a life coach. I'm also a health coach,
Mhm.
and I work with women. I'm going to say in the beginnings, middle, and already in the later stages of their life where they're experiencing perhaps empty nest syndrome, or the fact that they might have to downsize, or the fact that they are just by themselves now and
Mhm.
they really, who am I? They're asking themselves this question: who am I? What do I want to do for the rest of my life? And
Mhm.
so because that is exactly a question that I had, and that's what brought me to life coaching. So I work with them to help discover what their sense of purpose is again, because maybe they lost it along the way because
Mhm.
they were so focused on, significant other, spouse, family, friends, other relatives, that they forgot who they are. And that's where your voice comes in. So we learn how to get that voice back and discover their personal power again.
I love that. That kind of goes a little bit toward Communicate Great. And I don't know if
Mhm.
when you and I connected, if we talked about the journey to Communicate Great, but I've been in the communication field
Mhm.
forever and have degrees in it. And so, but I come from a nonprofit background. And so at the different nonprofits that I either worked for or volunteered for basically full time, I
Mhm.
did, it was always within the communication umbrella. And I got to do some of what I get to do now, and that is my heart. But years ago, when I was actually taking a class working on my master's, we had to do a project. And so the project that I chose was to do a workshop. And I tell a lot of people that
Mm.
I'm actually a major introvert. And so why I chose that, not sure, but I did. And at the end of that, I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people level up their skills, grow their
Mhm.
skills so that they could have better relationships with the people in their lives. And so
Yes.
after 20 plus years of doing things for other people, I walked away a little over a year ago and I just thought, this is it. And I felt like God was like, you remember that dream? It's time. And so started
Mhm.
Communicate Great. And so I understand what you're saying because
Mhm.
when I left that job, I I needed to, I very, very much needed to, but then it was almost like a divorce because I loved it and I loved working for nonprofits, but I just needed needed to step away
Mhm.
after so many years. And so I really did, what am I going to do? And so I absolutely understand what you're saying. I think when we pour our hearts and souls into something and then whatever, whether we choose that change or that change is chosen for us,
Mhm.
it can really throw you off for a minute. So I
Yep.
definitely understand. definitely understand that.
Absolutely, and, that's exactly how I felt when I made the decision, uh, during the big shutdown
Mhm.
to do something else because I said to my husband, I said, "I don't think I can go back to a 9 to 5, first of all, and do that same old, because I feel like I've lost a part of me doing something that I really don't like, and
Okay.
my passion has always been, for as long as I can remember, from my early teens when I was volunteering, was to be of service to others. And somehow I started out doing that. And then, life happens and you go for the safe, the secure, both financially and, otherwise. And slowly, time after time, year after year, job after job, I was losing my voice. I was losing myself. And I convinced myself that it's okay. It's okay if I'm in the background. It's okay if I push others out first. I mean, does that sound like what a lot of women do
Right.
with, with their families, with their spouses? They come second. Everybody else comes first. And
Yes.
so finally, I just said, enough. I mean,
Mm.
now's the time. It's now or never. If I don't jump in, 2 feet first and not think. So this was kind of a spontaneity thing, but kind of not, because if I didn't do it now, then I would be miserable, really.
Right. Right.
And so I started my journey. I started journaling as well, but I started my journey, and so far it's been 3 years of great personal growth, which I think
Good.
is first and foremost the most important thing that you can do for yourself, is to put yourself first.
Yes.
So,
That's one of the things, and I know that everybody has heard this a million times, but put the oxygen mask on yourself. If you pass out, you can't help put anybody else's mask on them. And
mhm,
so, what advice would you give anybody, women, men, whomever is
mhm.
listening or watching? What advice would you give in terms of how to start hearing that self, that need, that messaging, instead of maybe tuning it out or overlooking it or shoving it down? What advice would you give somebody to really start opening their mind and their heart to hearing what they
Mhm.
need to hear from themselves?
Well, first of all, and I did, in the past mention journaling. I wasn't a huge journaler until I started on my path to personal growth. And I started journaling. And basically, it's just asking yourself the questions: who am I? What do I want? Who do I want to be? And these are very powerful questions. But the biggest question is why? Why do I want to do, be, and have the
Mm,
things that I want?
mm,
The things that are on my wish list or dream list. And I don't like calling it a wish list, because when they're wishes, they're just that. But when you actually just put it down on paper and list it as a goal, then it becomes something that is attainable. It's
mhm,
tangible. You've written it down. So write it down and then look at it and read it so that it becomes ingrained in your mind. And it's, affirmations. If you are at a point in your life where you don't believe you can attain it, then find an avenue where you can start listening to affirmations that
mm,
you can repeat
mm,
so that you believe it. You and I, again, I don't like saying fake it till you make it, because that's not a good thing. That's almost a negative thing. But just constant repetition.
mm.
I am enough. I am
Right.
worthy. I can do it. I am capable. Those are all things that I had to talk to myself and constantly on repeat, daily, 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 daily. And until I started doing this, I still wasn't sure. And of course, jumping in and stepping out of your comfort zone. It's not going to happen if you're just looking, at a, a TV version of it.
Mm.
You have to just step out of your comfort zone. Is it hard? Absolutely. Is it scary? Absolutely. Is it, are you going to be fearing everything? Yes, you will. But fear is just excitement on pause. So
Right.
you just have to do it. If you want more, then you have to do more.
Right. So journaling, daily affirmations, and really even multiple times a day. So one of the
Hmm.
things I do as I'm a Christian, and one of the things I do when I start here having those fearful moments is I just have my few life verses and I just, speak them out loud. And so definitely
Yes.
speaking your scripture if you're a Christian, or your life verses, or quotes even, or those I can do this. And
Hmm.
so the journaling, the affirmation, and accepting that you are going to be fearful, but moving forward anyhow. That, yeah, I like all of those. So
Yeah.
when you have somebody that you're working with,
Hmm.
what is one of the biggest things that you have to overcome? And you may have already answered this, but what is one of the biggest things that you have to overcome with them so that they can start listening to those positive messages, internalizing the positive messages toward their self, instead of that? We, especially women, we are so good at beating ourselves up.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
stupid. I'm not enough. I'm ugly. I'm this. I'm that. I'll never do it. We are so good. And one of the things I often hear is, but would you say that to somebody you love? Why are you saying that to yourself?
Exactly.
So those kinds of things, when we're busy beating ourselves up, what is one of the things? Is it that? Is it something else? What is something that you find commonly that you have to help people overcome with that self-talk?
So I think the most important thing is to let them know that they are supported,
Mm,
so that they can be open and they can speak whatever they need to talk about in a very safe environment. And the the number one biggest thing that we do, I love dogs. The
I you
number
know
one.
Here's the deal. So normally, Emma is our coach. She's my daughter, and
Mhm.
the dogs are usually barking in her background. But I am grand dog sitting. So we have
Okay.
our two, and we have her two that you normally get to see or hear in the podcast with her. So all four of them are on the other side of this window in the room I'm in, and they're running back and forth, it sounds like, to the front door, barking. I don't even know what's out there, but
And you know what? That's what
oh,
makes our conversation very real, because life happens, right? It doesn't
exactly.
it doesn't stop just because we're on a conversation here. But
Yeah, exactly.
the second thing that I really work with them is, again, to discover what their why is. And
Mm,
then maybe even dig deeper their why underneath the why. Why is
mhm,
it that they want to be a certain way or do a certain thing? And
mhm,
why do they want to do that? And and then and obviously they'll probably say, well, this is what I want and this is why I want it, but they don't have that belief. So
mm,
I always tell them, I will hold that belief for you
mm,
until, as we start doing the work, you are going to start seeing some changes, seeing some shifts in your mindset, and you will start believing in yourself and that you're
mm.
capable, and then your self-talk will reflect that.
Oh, I like that. Yes. Yes, that is true. Once
Mhm.
you start having that shift of, I can do this. I am smart. I'm not stupid. Once you have that shift, man, it just starts you on this path and you
Mhm.
can pick up more and more speed.
It's so very easy. I mean, I always liken it to sort of like your voice of reason and your voice of judgment, right?
Okay.
Your voice of judgment is always ready and perched to just
Yes.
tell you the wherewithal, to tell you exactly what it feels. And a lot of times it's just easier to just listen.
Mhm.
It's easy to just
Mhm.
stay in that circle where, well, if I don't step out of that circle, everything will just stay the same. Do
Right.
they want it to stay the same? Not necessarily, because now they're saying, well, I want this and I want this change. Well, until you start stepping out of that circle and kind of saying to the voice of judgment, uh, my voice of wisdom is telling me the absolute opposite and is giving me, the encouragement that you can do it.
Mhm.
You're fully capable of achieving anything that you set your mind to. Don't worry about all the naysayers because in the end, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says, because
Yes.
ultimately it's all about you. If
Yes.
you think it's good and if that's what you want, then that's the only person that you have to answer to is yourself, both on the positive or the negative side.
Right. So one of the things you were talking about kind of we don't want to change. We also have to remember one of the things I talk about with people, helping them overcome the fear of being on video camera or standing up
Mhm.
and giving a speech, giving a presentation, is your brain is wired to not change because it thinks that is safe. And so
Absolutely.
anytime you do what anybody does what you are working with them to do, and that is
Mhm.
get them to shift that mindset and build that positive self-talk and understand what they are capable of, that's dangerous in for the brain. Like, the brain's like,
Mhm.
"No, you don't
Mhm.
wanna do that. What if you fail? What if something bad happens?" And
Right.
so, our brain absolutely does not want us to change, and so you are right. You have
Mhm.
to dig in and just say that this is what you're gonna do. You talked earlier about that a
Yeah,
little bit, so
absolutely. And I was not this comfortable when I was on lives or on a video and posting a video. Right now, I mean, do I get nervous at times? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But I'm more comfortable now in speaking my truth and to sharing my voice with others. But let me tell you, my first video, I didn't do it live. I kind of did the recorded live version,
Mhm.
pre-recorded live version.
Mhm.
And it took me 2 hours before I was happy with what I was saying.
Mhm.
And if someone were to go to my very, very first video on
Mhm.
Instagram, the video, and listened to it, even my husband, he laughs at me because I was very quiet and I was very accommodating and the video was on fear and
Mhm.
itself.
Oh, that's great. I
And
love that.
so that was my first video. And this is the way I talk. This is my normal um voice inflection and my volume level, but not in that very first video. And I look at that and I would just say, you know what? That's a learning experience. I did it. I actually
Yes.
recorded it and posted it and said, you know what? This is me. This is who I am. And as I keep continuing to learn and grow,
Mhm.
people are going to start to see the change. And
Mhm.
just that in itself will be testimony that it can be done.
Yes. Yes. So, exactly, you had that fear, but you pushed through anyhow, so
Mhm.
I love that. Okay, so what else? What other advice would you give people before we say goodbye to everybody? What
Mhm.
other advice would you give people? What do you want people to know in terms of communicating with self-talk?
Just just to know that you have the power. Everything that you want to achieve is within you. And it's just important to realize it, understand it, and know that that strength is inside of you. And nobody can stop you. You're the only one that can stop you but yourself, but you're the only one that can push yourself forward. So listen to that voice of wisdom. Listen to your intuition, your gut that's telling you it's okay. You can do it. And
Mhm.
stumble, fall, but just get back up again and just continue on your journey because good things will happen to you and there's always that rainbow at the end of the bridge.
Yes. And so when you say, stumble and fall and that's okay, that reminds me, you know,
Mhm.
we are going to fail, but it's
Yes.
not real. I don't see it as true failure. Anytime I think, "Oh, that
Mhm.
was the worst, I whatever," I have to reframe and say, "No, it was a learning opportunity." And
Yeah.
so you're right, when we stumble, when we do whatever, it's just a chance to learn,
Yep.
to make some tweaks,
Mhm.
and get back up and go again. I mean, you don't how many babies stand up and just walk the first time? They don't, right?
None that I know of.
No, I've never seen one either. So anyhow, okay. So I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to put your information down in the
Okay.
description, but why don't you just let people know where we can find you?
So I can be found on both Facebook and Instagram. So on Instagram, I am under Best of Barb Wellness. And then on Facebook, it's just my name, Barb Pastuszko. And I imagine the it's the spelling is right there and on the screen. But you can find me in both of those spots. And yeah, and hopefully the something will resonate with each of you. And we can open up and have a chat.
I would love that for you. Okay, so one more time, I know you mentioned it briefly, but so what services do you provide for people?
So, as a life coach, I have programs. It's my program is called Live Your Best Life, and it's all encompassing. I have 30, 60, and 90-day programs that I offer
Okay.
depending on what you are looking for. I usually suggest that the 90-day is the best program because you need that time to really start to see the changes in growth. But sometimes people are just needing that tweak, and so
Mm,
a 30 or 60-day program would work just as well. But the end result is all the same, and that's to get you back on your path to living your best life.
I love that. I love that that is what you help people do. When we first met, I think it was an online networking
Yes,
group,
it
but
was. Yes.
when we first met, that is what caught my attention because I am all about helping people build and grow.
Hmm.
So, all right. Thank you for coming on. And everybody, again, I will put Barb's information in the description so you can follow the link and go check her out, have a conversation with her. Barb, I so appreciate you coming on and being very patient in the reschedule. So I
Thank
thank
you
you
for
so
having me.
much for that. Okay. All right, everybody, we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.